Do you want to become a police officer? You're wondering how I became one? Well, watch this video. Hey guys, how are you today? So thank you for dropping by my channel. Recently I've had a little influx of viewers and subscribers, so I thank you very much for that. This series that I want to do is all about becoming a police officer. I've been a police officer now for 10 years and I want to pass along what I learned about it and how to become one. Right, Tate? And maybe someday you can become a police officer too. So this little series will follow my journey from a little boy through high school, through university, becoming a police officer, and then maybe the next series be something I've learned on the job over the last 10 years. So thanks for tuning in, and let's start. Okay, so if we're going to start this this journey, I guess we'll start right at the beginning. I'm 35 years old. I live in Canada, as you can see here, and I live on the east coast of Canada. So I was born into a family of 4 kids. I'm the oldest boy. I have an older sister and a younger brother and sister. We grew up a simple life, kind of out in the country. We took the bus to school, and we had a great time playing in the woods. Always an adventurous kid. I love sports. I played baseball growing up and played football in high school. That was always my dream, and I got to do that. Played some rugby, which I really loved, but had a very active childhood. Sadly, which you don't see a lot of kids today. So even at a very young age, there's a video clip I'll throw up here in a second, is me saying how I want to be a police officer. That was a theme that went throughout my life as a 5-year-old, as a 10-year-old, as a 15-year-old, and then into university. I actually chose kind of the degree I took, and then just how I try to pursue some odd jobs, all with the focus of one day becoming a police officer. So here's the little clip I was talking about.
Primary,
What are you going to be when you grow up, Ken?
he's a great hero. Policeman.
Policeman.
Right.
What's Katie going to be?
I don't know.
You plan to be a mother, have some babies? Yeah?
I'm 7 years old.
Be a nurse, that's a nice job.
In grade 2,
Yeah?
and I'm demonstrating.
You're demonstrating, yeah. I see. Okay, that was a nice...
So I was blessed to grow up in a great family. As I said, there was 4 of us. My dad was hardworking, worked for the post office. My mom stayed home, took care of us until later in life when we were able to stay home ourselves, and she actually started working at the post office. They instilled hard work in us, like we used to deliver flyers on the weekend. We had chores we had to do. They made us be active outside, so that was great. My siblings, they were great as well. They all turned out great. My older sister, she's a teacher. My younger sister, she works for the government. I think she does financial accounting type stuff. I guess I should know that, but I just know she works for the government and has to do with like numbers and accounting. My brother just recently kind of moved away, which kind of sucks, but he was pursuing his film career. So he's a camera guy working on movies and TV shows up in Toronto doing that. So they were all a great influence on my life. Obviously as kids and siblings you have ups and downs, but overall it was a great childhood. So looking back at my childhood, there's nothing that I can really say stood out to me that kind of like pushed me in the direction of becoming a police officer, but it was definitely something I always wanted to do. I don't know if it's the fascination of like cops and robbers and the shows, the cartoons that you saw, but we'd spend endless hours back in the woods behind my house playing cops and robbers and games like that. But my childhood, to kind of sum up my childhood, I was very active, it was happy, I stayed out of trouble, which is always good, and I continued to have the desire to be a police officer. So moving into, I guess it was grade 6 would be the first kind of choice that I made, like actively as a young person, thinking forward towards a career in policing. I remember being in grade 6, and the applications came out if you wanted to take French immersion starting in grade 7. And I was terrible at French. I was actually not a big fan of school in general. So one day I came home with an application to French immersion, gave it to my mom and my dad, and said I wanted to do French immersion. I think that probably shocked them, but in my mind I was thinking, you know what, if I'm bilingual, that'd be something that could help me become a police officer, give me an upper hand on some other candidates. And it's kind of, I guess, funny at a young age, being in grade 6, how old would you be then, thinking forward like that. So I filled the application, and the next year I started French immersion. It was tough. I guess I was never the best student. I got through, I made it actually all the way through to high school and graduated with my diploma in my French immersion program. So I was very proud that I worked hard and did that, and that was kind of towards the end goal. In high school, same thing, I stayed in French immersion. I remember I did like a co-op thing in high school where you job shadowed. I went and job shadowed a police officer. That was a very eye-opening experience. I think that was my first taste at looking into the life of what a police officer would be like. And I'll just share a story with you there in 1 second. So during this co-op program, I think I went on a couple ride-alongs, and I had to do like some type of paper about policing. But the ride-alongs are something I would definitely recommend. If you're a young person, a lot of, like in my area, a lot of the high schools have a program where you kind of like go on a bunch of ride-alongs with the police. If that's something you're interested in, we take them out usually on a day shift and kind of show them what the job's all about and give them a little taste of it. I think some people realize, well, maybe this job's not for them, and other people, it lights the fire a little bit more within them. One of the stories that I can relate back to my ride-along, I remember I went out to a rural area with the RCMP, and I went along with a female member. We did traffic stops, we had driving complaints. I think somebody reported something was stolen from their house, and just kind of like the mundane stuff. But then I remember we responded, and she was the first officer there for a suicide. So obviously she said, you stay in the car, and then she had to go into the home where I think it was a father had committed suicide with a firearm. And the kids came home and located him. So you can just imagine what that would have been like. So as I sat there in the car, it was a long time. You can imagine, like, the ME's office had to be contacted, different family members showed up, eventually body removal showed up. Another officer dropped by, see if he needed some help, but I just sat in the car and waited. I was fine with that, I was loving it. Just the whole experience, obviously not being a suicide call, but just loving the experience. So eventually the officer comes outside and she sits down in the car beside me and she says, and it's always kind of stuck with me, she's like, I just need a minute, I apologize for this. And she started to bawl. She started to cry about what she had just seen. It was very horrific. Just dealing with kids that had seen that as well, dealing with the other family members, and just the sad tragedy of the loss of life. I guess for some people that really would have negatively affected them and said, you know what, this career isn't for me. But for me, like, it definitely made me see that different side of it, and it made me still want to do this job. It made me want to not really be in those situations, but if I had to be in those situations, which we constantly are, to maybe be able to help those kids cope with that, maybe be able to help the wife or family member somehow cope, somehow bring some light into the darkness that they're having there. So that was something that really stuck out for me. And if you want to contrast like that experience with another experience, I remember going on a ride along, it was a rural area, different detachment, but there was a kind of a trouble community, and we ended up, I think it was a shooting that we ended up responding to, and then there was something to do with maybe a car that was stolen. I remember we took this back road there. We were just bombing there, just flying down this dirt road, lights and sirens and just dust flying everywhere, and just like me in the passenger seat just loving every moment of it. I guess wishing I was driving. So we get there, and then the officer goes to leave the car because K9 had arrived to do a K9 track, and they didn't have a ton of officers for containment. The officer said, I'm gonna lock the doors, you duck down the passenger seat, I'll be back. So he leaves me in the passenger seat, doors locked. out in the middle of nowheres, and off they go to track the suspect. I just remember like sitting there and like all these different cars be going by. They'd see all the police cars, they'd be slowing down, and there's me kind of slouched down in the seat. But yeah, I remember my adrenaline was just going, my heart was pumping, and I was just, you know what, this is a job I definitely want to do. So I was in high school. So that was an awesome experience, and something, if you want to take away from this video, is from primary to high school, have fun, be a kid, be active, because that will help you later in life. You want to be active in this job. You want to be in good shape. If you make some good choices in high school to avoid partying too much, to avoid too much drugs and stuff like that. I understand kids will experiment, and the police departments understand that as well, but you don't want to ruin your life. And get involved in sports that will keep you away from drugs, keep you away from the stuff like that. Get involved in co-op programs, do ride-alongs. If you can take some courses like criminal courses in high school, do that. But just enjoy life, and in that segment of your life, just make some small choices that could help you down the road if this is something you're looking for. So in the next series, I'll kind of transition to my university days and before coming to police officer. So if you like this series, just like the video here below, subscribe to this channel. I have police related stuff like this. I'm doing the keto diet. I have stuff on keto. It's a family vlog, so I have videos on my kids. I do CrossFit, so I have some CrossFit videos, a little bit of everything. So I'd really appreciate it if you just help me out and subscribe and like this video, and we'll see you on the next one.